All right, good afternoon. Welcome to today's membership luncheon, our congressional update featuring Congressman Dan Newhouse. Sponsored by McKay Spizito, I'm Lori Matson, President and CEO of the Tri-City Regional Chamber. We're very pleased to be joined today by our Congressman Dan Newhouse to hear legislative updates from Washington, D.C., as well as his perspective on key issues impacting Central Washington and here at home in the Tri-Cities. This month, Congressman Newhouse has been very busy crisscrossing the 4th District, a fairly large territory stretching from the Canadian border down to the Columbia River. In late July, he made visits to the Hammer Training Center at Hanford, the UPS Customer Care Center, and toured sites with plumbers and pipe fitters here in the Tri-Cities. Earlier this month, he stopped in Yakima and participated in the National Night Out festivities to promote crime prevention, as well as visited early education partners in the area. Most recently, our congressman made a trip to the North Cascades Smoke Jumpers Camp in Winthrop and visited with firefighter crews and the local Winthrop TWISP Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Congressman, for taking time out of your busy schedule today, and we look forward to hearing about all these issues that matter most to those of us in Central Washington. At this time, I'd like to recognize today's sponsor, McKay Spizito, and their sponsorship includes the opportunity to come speak to us about their organization. So joining us today is Derek Smith, the Senior Vice President of McKay Spizito. Please help me welcome Derek.
Thank you, Lori. We really appreciate the opportunity to sponsor this event. I think we've been doing this now for about 6 years, and we do it because it's a way to show our appreciation for this wonderful chamber and all they do for our community. They've certainly been a wonderful advocate for us, and we appreciate that. We also like this as an opportunity to recognize our congressman, and we appreciate Congressman Newman and the work that he does for us and all of our elected officials. So thank you very much. A little bit about our firm. I think I'll start by embarrassing some of our staff. So if our staff that's here today could stand up, I'll introduce them really quickly. Starting with you, Russ, because you're excited to do this. This is Russ Chrisman, Brian Cole, who runs our landscape architecture team company-wide, and Paul Harmson, and Caitlin Verding, who is in our business development group. So a little bit about our firm. We are a engineering architecture, landscape architecture firm. We're really excited and proud to be part of the building community, as you know, and one of the things I love about this community is our focus on and appreciation for the importance of infrastructure. And so we're in the exciting business of planning and designing the infrastructure that makes our community work. And I realize I'm not doing my part by also running the audio visual. So these are some of the services that we provide: landscape architecture, civil engineering, land surveying, construction management, and inspection work. And we do that in a number of industries. Primary to those industries is the public works arena. And so a lot of our clients are here. We do work for all of the local cities and agencies and ports, and that's a wonderful business. And we're proud of the work we've done here in the Tri-Cities and frankly across the Northwest. So our business spans throughout the Northwest into California and as far as Wyoming, and even occasionally we have some lucky individuals who go to Alaska and even to Hawaii. So I don't, but some of our employees get to. We also do business in the land development in the private sector. And we're really proud right now. We're working on 2 of the largest master plan communities in the Northwest. The largest in Washington, which is Tahale in the Federal Way area, and then Reed's Crossing, which is in Portland, Oregon. And so two of the biggest projects in our region are McKay Esposito projects, and we're proud of that work. And finally, we do a lot of business in the energy sector, and so we're working on a lot of the hydro facilities in the Northwest. Bonneville Power is a large client of ours, as well as Pacificor and some of the local utilities. And so it's an exciting business, and it's an exciting time, to be a part of McKay Esposito. One of the interesting investments that we've made recently is in UAV and drone technology. And so here in a couple of weeks, we're going to have an event, a little bit of a demonstration for some of the technology that we've invested in. And if you're familiar with the quadcopter type of drone, we have that technology, but some of the more interesting technology is a fixed wing product, and we're able to fly large properties and take survey grade topography and do all sorts of mapping type projects. And so we're currently doing that for Washington State DOT, and we've done some local projects. Actually, we're in the process of a project with the city of Kennewick, which is based on a drone aerial survey. So it's really exciting technology that I think is going to change our industry significantly. It's allowing us to do planning level work and then final design at a lower cost point and in a much quicker way. So we're excited about that. So if you're interested in that technology or perhaps seeing this in action, I invite you to come back after the lunch and give us a business card, and we'll make sure you get an announcement of when that occurs. So we are a company that's focused on honesty, dedication, and relationships. That's really what has made us successful. We've grown very rapidly over the last several years, and we're proud of our position here in the Tri-Cities and the relationships that we have with you as community partners and as clients. And so we appreciate that. We hope you enjoy your lunch. We're like everybody else, we have a significant online presence, so we encourage you to reach out and connect to us socially. We also have a blog, so if you happen to be in the building industry, our technical people are constantly putting out informative articles that will help you do your job better. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek, and thanks again to everybody at McKay Esposito for sponsoring today's program. I know you've been doing this particular program for a number of years, so we appreciate your continued support. Each month, the Regional Chamber Awards and Recognition Committee selects a member business to recognize as our Outstanding Member of the Month. And this month, the Chamber is pleased to announce Meyer Architecture and Engineering as the Outstanding Member of the Month. A regional chamber member for more than 15 years, Meyer has established a firm reputation providing quality, responsive, and affordable architecture and engineering services to clients throughout the Pacific Northwest and U.S. After more than 33 years on the west side of Kennewick, Meyer Architecture has recently made the move to downtown Kennewick. This new home gives Meyer the room to grow and strengthens the commitment the 100% employee-owned firm has to the community. Meyer is a strong STEM advocate, offering student internships, job shadows, and classroom participation. Meyer Architecture and Engineering is truly committed to providing the best services a local small business can provide to its community. So please help me welcome Paul Guyver, who is the interim president and CEO, to accept this month's award. Thanks again to our committee who works on selecting all of our members of the month. All right, well, before we get started, I'd like to invite Elizabeth Holt, who's our Marketing and Membership Director, to the stage to present the plaques to our newest members. Elizabeth.
Thanks, Lori. Like Lori said, I'm excited to be able to announce some of the Chamber's newest members who are able to join us today. So if I announce your name, please come to the stage and accept your membership plaque, and then we'll pose for a group photo. First, we have Esmeralda Hueso and Annette Prieto with the T-Shirt Factory, Abel Campos with Three Brothers Moving, Amy Schneider with Schneider Realty Group, Kendra Guzik and Jason Sadler with Tri-Cities Tap and Barrel, Alex Sparhawk and Kathy Lloyd with Purple Peaches Coffee, J.D. Nolan with Fat Olives Restaurant and Catering, Oni King and Jen Dorsett with Atomic Shootout Soccer Tournament, Jeremy Hunsicker with Wells Fargo Advisors, Jesse Mundy with A1 Truck Wash, Ernie Adair with Ernie's Landscaping, Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, Robin Shelton with Westside Auto Licensing, Rich Quadrell with Sage College Prep Services, and Jay Denny and Dave Landis with Water to Wine Cruises. Join me in welcoming our new members. Next, I'd like to recognize some of the Chamber's longest-standing members. The members I will mention have been members for 20 years or longer. Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, Trios Health, Group Health Cooperative, Hawthorne Court Retirement Community, Central Premix, Chan Chiropractic Clinic, Conover Insurance, Harrington's Trophies, Lowe's Hardware and Garden Center, Kennewick House, and Tri-Cities Licensing. We appreciate your participation with the Chamber. Please help me.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and welcome to all of our new members. We appreciate your support, and I look forward to providing you value to your business. So now it's the time for our first of 3 audience poll questions. Those of you who come to our lunches know we do this every month. We engage our luncheon audience through live polling, which is sponsored by Cascade Natural Gas. So the process is very easy, and we hope you'll all participate. We have 3 questions. We're going to ask the first one now and the last 2 after Congressman Newhouse has spoken. So please take out your cell phones. Now, this is like the perfect thing. You actually have an excuse to look at your phones. Draw your attention either to the screen or the tent card at the center of your table. Open a blank text message, and in the recipient area, in the To section, type the numbers 22333. And you're all going to want to participate. We have great questions this month. Then in the message section, text TCRCC in upper or lowercase and press send. Very shortly after that, you'll receive a notification from Poll Everywhere. It means you've officially joined our polling session. All right. Are we in? Are we ready? Head nodding, yes? All right, so our first question is, do you believe the 34 miles of the Columbia River shoreline running through the Tri-Cities, currently managed by the Corps of Engineers, should be returned to local control? So text A for yes or B for no. Well, wait a minute here. These are always really interesting. This is a great addition to our lunches. It's really great to get your feedback. So it looks like a large majority of you, it's changing a little bit by not by much. Do you believe the 34 miles of Columbia River shoreline running through the Tri-Cities should be returned to local control? That's the question. A, yes, B, no. All right, we'll keep, if you're still working on your answer, we'll have these up later to show you, but it looks like we largely support that issue. So thank you very much. We'll have 2 more questions, and you're already in the polling, so you won't have to redo all of that. All right, before we welcome the Congressman to the stage, we want to share a short video that he recently recorded about one of the community's newest landmarks.
This year we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of America's National Park System. For folks in Central Washington, finding your park means coming here to the B Reactor near Richland, Washington. The Manhattan Project National Historical Park was first dedicated in November of 2015. With the new park, the legacy of the people who spent their lives and labor at Hanford will be preserved for generations to come. 70 years ago, more than 51,000 workers lived at the 640 square mile site to construct the B Reactor here as part of the top-secret Manhattan Project. The B Reactor was a groundbreaking facility, the world's first full-scale plutonium production reactor that was part of the network of government facilities across the nation, racing to research and develop an atomic weapon during World War II. Hanford's role was to produce high-grade plutonium used in the development of the first atomic bombs used to end the war. One of the most stirring sights is one of the few remaining signs, that of Hanford High School, part of the original town of Hanford, whose residents were evicted by the federal government to create the Hanford nuclear site. The remains of the high school are a reminder of the high cost paid by area residents who were forced to give up their homes. The Hanford High School is now preserved by the National Park Service and will tell the story of the citizens whose lives were dramatically impacted by Hanford. The work at the site continued to play a crucial role during the Cold War, and Hanford operated for more than 40 years before decommissioning the last reactor in 1987. Now, after decades of cleanup efforts, successful progress has allowed the opening of sites such as the historic B reactor to the public. In 2015, more than 10,000 people visited the site. With the lifting of the age restriction, school children will have the opportunity to ask questions and have their imaginations stirred about the contribution of Hanford to breakthroughs in science. So bring your family to find your park. Take an exciting trip to learn about Central Washington's contributions to our nation's history.
That's a great video. Thank you for doing that. And it's going to be great to have a national park right here in our own backyard. And thanks to everybody who's working on this project, and particularly our building partners, Tridec and Visit Tri-Cities. So before I introduce Congressman Newhouse, I want to just remind everybody at the end, we're going to have an opportunity to ask questions. We would like for you to wait. We'll have some roving mics, so that way everyone can hear your question. If you'd raise your hand, we'll have somebody get to you. So Congressman Newhouse is a lifelong resident of Washington State and was raised in Sunnyside, where his family owned and operated a farm. In 1977, he graduated from Washington State University with a degree in agricultural economics. From 2003 to 2009, he served as a member of the Washington State House of Representatives in Olympia, and in 2009 was appointed the director of the Washington State Department of Agriculture. As director, Dan connected with farmers across the state and promoted Washington's vast agricultural resources. In 2014, Congressman Newhouse was elected to serve Washington's 4th Congressional District. He currently serves on 3 committees with jurisdiction on critical legislative issues for the 4th District. These include the House Agricultural Committee, Natural Resources Committee, Rules Committee, and several subcommittees. In addition, he's the vice chair of the Hanford Nuclear Cleanup Caucus. A third-generation farmer, Congressman Newhouse still resides in Sunnyside with his wife, Carol. They have 2 grown children and continue to operate their 600-acre farm where they grow hops, tree fruit, and grapes. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our Congressman Dan Newhouse.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Good, because I hate to have to repeat a 30-minute speech, right? After watching that video, you're probably thinking he better keep his day job, I'm sure. But it was a pleasure to do that, to help promote what I used to call our newest national park. It's no longer the newest, there's a couple more, but still it's going to be the best national park that we have, and one that I'm very proud to be associated with. It's going to draw a ton of people here to the Tri-Cities. It's going to be a really good thing for economic development. You know, just personally, I told my staff, there's a couple of them here today, to block out some time in August and September. I don't want any appointments because we just started our hop harvest at home, and I wanted to be home for that. As you can imagine, being a lifelong farmer, being home for harvest, that's a big deal. It's important for me to do that. And guess what? I'm here with you instead of in the hop kill. But you know, this is one thing that I would absolutely break that rule for, to be here with you, to meet with the Tri-Cities Regional Chamber. I should say, belatedly, although I was here in spirit if not body, happy birthday for 10 years of being a successful chamber. Congratulations to you for a successful run, and I'm looking forward to many more years of success. So thank you, Lori, for having me. Thank you for inviting me to be with you today. It's certainly a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak about some of the things that, as a community, that we can together work on the opportunities for economic prosperity for the Tri-Cities area, as well as really for the rest of the state, because a lot of things that happen here truly do impact the rest of Washington state. So I've got a couple things I want to talk about, and then if there's time for questions, I'd certainly want to entertain those. I think Lori mentioned that. I appreciate the opportunity to see some of the results of the poll questions. That's a great thing. That helps me, actually, in making some of the decisions I have to make. But there's as you know, here we are in an election year, a national election, a lot of things on the ballot. I got to think that the length of the ballot during the primary had something to do with our poor turnout, because a lot of people looked at it and thought they were just overwhelmed. Well, the general election ballot will be a little smaller, but there's a lot of important things that Americans have to decide on this year. And I wanted to just talk about a few of the issues that are important to our region, to the Tri-Cities, as well as to the rest of the country. First of all, you can't talk about the economy of the Tri-Cities without mentioning Hanford and the nuclear cleanup, the effort that's going on there, certainly the national park as well. And I'm sure everyone here is aware of many of the challenges that Hanford has faced over the last few months. You know, ensuring workers are able to do their jobs in a safe environment, it's certainly something that I support, and I know all of you do as well. But cleaning up 56 million gallons of radioactive waste, that's something that's vital to all of us, vital to this area, to the Pacific Northwest, and certainly to the entire country. And so that will be a top funding priority for Congress as we move forward, even as we, as a nation, are faced with less discretionary funding. And let me tell you, that makes it more and more difficult for us to make sure that we have the resources we need to get the work done. You know, over the next few years, there's going to be some changes at Hanford. Many of the current contracts are going to expire within the next 2 years of the major contractors. So also the focus, the cleanup focus, is going to be changing from the river corridor towards the Central Plateau, the tank farms, the VIT plant, those things as we move, as things happen, as things get done. I don't know if you know this, but the cleanup of the river corridor truly could be described as a great success story. Tremendous work has been done that will, as far as an appropriations perspective, will allow needed resources to be focused elsewhere, certainly in the Central Plateau. But I just wanted to extend congratulations to everyone that was involved, has been involved in the river corridor cleanup, for the tremendous work that's been accomplished there. Certainly, while work continues to proceed and evolve, there are going to be many challenges from the community, from elected officials. We all need support from state and local governments will be critical to accomplishing the site's goals. But I believe that the mission can best be accomplished if everyone is pulling together. Everyone's working toward the same goals, which is why one of my priorities has been to ensure that the efforts being undertaken at Hanford are not politicized. That can really get in the way of progress. You know, the site, as we were reminded in the video, truly has a remarkable history. And all of us are very proud of the role that Hanford played in winning World War II, putting an end to the Cold War. The B reactor, the Manhattan Project National Historic Site will be great examples of pointing this out. However, if we allow Hanford to become another divisive and political issue, then the focus will shift away from Hanford and their accomplishments, while ultimately making it more difficult to complete the cleanup mission. So for these reasons, I'm committed to supporting Hanford, highlighting the great work that's been done there, and ensuring the site and its employees continue to have the tools and the resources necessary to meet the challenges ahead and get the job done. And I think if we all work together, we can accomplish that. And lead us into the post-cleanup era, which I know I'm looking forward to, and I know many of us are. Another issue that was just broached in the survey has to do with the McCleary shoreline transfer issue. You know, as many of you know, the McNary shoreline truly is a bright spot of the Columbia Basin. It really is. But it's one that's being underutilized under federal control. Some of you, well, I'm sure some of you remember the flood of 1948. I don't. I'm much younger than that. But following that catastrophic flood in 1948, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers assumed control of 34 miles of Columbia River shoreline. And that was on both sides of the river for the purposes of flood control. But you know, since 1948, 9 different dams have been constructed upriver from the Tri-Cities, meaning that the area no longer is truly under threat of a major flood or risk of major flood. So it's really not necessary for the Army Corps to control all of that shoreline. Over the past really year and a half, I've met with a lot of different people, numerous stakeholders on this issue, elected officials, even the Corps, a lot of community members. And let me tell you, there's growing support among many people for returning the ownership of the shoreline to the local community, which could greatly improve access and increase many recreational uses. But as the community is having this conversation, it's really important to have information on how the Corps acquired the land. As you can imagine, since 1948, records are not great. The amount of money that local communities is certainly something that they're spending on maintenance and upkeep is something we need to know, and how the Corps' control impacts use by citizens, and understanding any questions or concerns that community members may have. Returning the land is not quite as simple as one would assume. I thought it would be an easy task, and it isn't. The main reason being is that the Corps currently can't say how it acquired the property. There's hundreds, I think, at least dozens of different parcels, and the history of each individual parcel has to be researched, and all of that makes it a very difficult task. So in order to address the problem, earlier this year I proposed an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act that directs the Corps to provide documentation on how the McNary shoreline was acquired, each individual parcel. That amendment doesn't transfer any land. It simply requests information that's necessary for future land transfer to the McNary shoreline and back to local government control. The area is beautiful, and it holds significant benefits and opportunities for the local community. It certainly does. And in talking to many of you, it's clear that for several decades, the cities of Pasco, Kennewick, and Richland have collectively paid nearly $2 million annually to maintain the parks, and the trails, the levees, even though the land is completely owned by the Army Corps of Engineers, and we have no say in how the land is managed. So I believe returning control and responsibility for our Columbia River back to the Tri-Cities could actually provide us with a great opportunity, one that will allow the community to improve, enhance existing parks, existing recreation and public access, and really make this riverfront an attractive area that it could be. It could benefit all who live or visit in the area, which is why I am supportive of transferring ownership away from the federal government and back to the people of Central Washington, if that's a decision that the communities want to make. So I'm glad that you're engaged in this conversation. One thing does seem clear to me, though, that if our communities want to take on this responsibility, then the McNary shoreline has a much brighter future than it would under the current management of the federal government. So, nationally, in this election year, there's been a couple of issues that are probably, if you turn on the news or open the paper, you're going to find something about every single day. Two things that just happen to coincide with what I think are probably two of the biggest issues in our area, and that is trade and immigration. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about those two issues. It's kind of an interesting thing that our two top issues coincide with what's happening around the whole entire country. Now, many of you, certainly being a Chamber of Commerce, I would think, many people in the Tri-Cities understand that fully 40% of the jobs in the state of Washington are somehow tied to international trade. I've sometimes referred to the state of Washington as an international supermarket because of the amount of agricultural goods that we provide to customers. In fact, I don't know if you knew this, but our state is the third largest agricultural exporter in the United States. And that's pretty good for little old Washington state. We are the closest from the lower 48 to those customers in the Asian Pacific region, the Pacific Rim. So we stand to benefit tremendously from increasing trade volume as living standards in those countries improve, disposable income increases. In 2015, we exported $8.6 billion worth of goods. That's almost 6% of the United States total. So trade's a big deal here in the state of Washington. What's disconcerting, though, is that there was once an understanding that really crossed party lines, both Republican and Democrat, that Americans benefit tremendously from engagement in free trade. There's an undercurrent in our country today. You've probably noticed it. That rejects free trade and encourages a return to increasing tariffs and raising trade barriers. Today, the case for free markets must be made with the same strength and conviction as someone I like to quote, President Ronald Reagan, when in the 1980s he said that as a leader of the West and as a country that has become great and rich because of economic freedom, America must be an unrelenting advocate of free trade. Now, we know that about 96% of our potential customers live somewhere other than the United States. Closing the doors on these potential markets can only hurt our competitiveness and decrease our own standard of living. We need to remember something that I learned when I was Director of Agriculture, and that is that countries don't have to buy our products. They don't have to buy apples from Washington. They don't have to buy our beef, our cherries. They can get wine from a lot of different countries. It's a really competitive situation that our producers face. Market share is extremely competitive. And as we saw last year with the slowdown at our West Coast ports, that market share is really, really difficult to gain back. So we can't take all of the advantages we have as a state for granted. That's why last year, with my support, Congress passed the Trade Promotion Authority Bill. TPA, as it's become commonly known, it's really what it is a set of instructions from Congress telling the administration, telling the President, what priorities must be focused on in negotiating trade agreements, but it also includes a requirement that the final text of any agreement that the President reaches must be posted online for at least 2 months to allow the American public to read what the administration is proposing, so that you can give feedback to your elected representatives, to your senators, so that you can talk it over amongst yourselves to make sure that this is a step that the country should take. I've met personally with our U.S. Trade Representative, as well as some of his lead negotiators. And I've expressed strong support for those positions in the trade agreement that would be beneficial for Central Washington and for the whole state of Washington. I'm anticipating that the President, at some point this year, will push this large priority of his towards Congress, hoping for an approval. I don't know for sure if it's going to happen. My crystal ball is not real clear. But that's my anticipation, because this is one of the things that he is setting his legacy on. This agreement would open up, in my estimation so far, markets to us, reduce tariffs to create a free trade zone with some of our most important trading partners, 11 different countries that we share a tremendous amount in common in our markets. So what I want you to do is take a close look at the trade agreement. Give me your impressions. Give me your feedback. And like you, I will verify that it's a good deal for the United States. Another thing that, as we all saw when the ports were in their slowdown mode last year, starting in 2014 and into 2015, was that regardless of whatever trade deals are out there, it's very important that we make sure our infrastructure is prepared to take advantage of the potential economic opportunities that are in front of us. The impact of the slowdown and the losses that we incurred were measured by the International Trade Council. It was estimated that over $770 million were lost by Washington companies in about a 5-month period because of the slowdown to our ports. And more than that, that doesn't even account for the markets that were lost going forward. Many of the products that we export still have not regained the markets they lost in that time period. I know one company that went bankrupt because of the port slowdown. So it truly is a big problem. But one of the biggest challenges that we faced, and I got to tell you, I was first elected in November of 2014, and this was right in the midst of this slowdown. And I honestly can't tell you that I've never felt so helpless as an elected official, a new congressman, not feeling able to affect any positive change. All we could do was stand on our soapbox and say, end the slowdown. Let's get our ports back to work. Finally, that happened. But there were some things that stuck out as things that potentially we could do to avoid this situation in the future. And one of those things is, this was a slowdown, not a strike or a shutdown. One of those things is, and something that I've been working on, we've passed some legislation to just do this, is to take the guesswork out of the decision that the administration has to make on whether to insert itself. And they can do that by imposing a judicial injunction that would this would potentially stop a future labor dispute. So in June of this year, as a result of legislation that I sponsored, a performance working group for the ports was put together to come up essentially with some metrics, some measurements, to be able to let us know when a slowdown, if that's what is occurring, is actually happening. So the administration then can insert its authority right into the middle of these port operation slowdowns. And then we will avoid the kind of situation that we saw last year. So whether through improving port performance or increasing trade opportunities, I believe we must continue to make the case for increased trade. Higher tariffs and raising trade barriers would literally choke off opportunity instead of leading to greater prosperity. And I don't think we can afford to give up on America's global economic leadership when it comes to trade. Now, another issue that's of primary importance to the United States, and particularly to Central Washington, and I would think that everybody in this room has an opinion on, and that has to do with immigration and immigration reform. This is truly one of my priorities as a congressman, to solve immigration, the problem that we have associated with that. In fact, one of my fears was that this would get solved before I got to Washington, D.C., and I wouldn't be able to participate in forming the solution. Rest assured, though, government moves very slowly. The problem waited for me until I got there. But it's been a very frustrating last year and a half moving forward with immigration improvements, but it's something that I continue to work on and will continue to do that. And the conversation has changed. How many of you fly frequently, or at least once in a while? Certainly a lot of them. And thanks to our commissioners, we have a tremendous airport to fly out of. Yeah, Gene, thank you. So that, not that I'm trying to instill fear into everybody, but that reminds folks about the changing world that we live in. It truly is a dangerous place, and there are a lot of people that are trying to do bad things to groups of people. And certainly one of the responsibilities that I take very seriously is the primary role of the federal government really is to keep the homeland safe. So border security, and it's not just because of immigrants coming up from south of the border, sneaking across, trying to get a job, but we're talking border security for truly the safety of the homeland now, has changed the conversation around immigration reform significantly. So we've done several things to improve our security, trying to make sure that people coming into this country don't have ill intent, are not coming here for nefarious reasons. But we can do lots of background checks. We can do a lot of things to make sure that as well as we possibly can to check people before they come across the border. But one thing you can't do is see inside a person's heart. And I don't know how we solve that problem. But we can do a lot of things to decrease the possibility, the potential for dangerous things happening. But we must also focus on a solution for many of the families and the individuals who are here contributing to our way of life and are truly part of our communities. Businesses here in Central Washington who depend on a stable, legal, and reliable workforce are depending on us to do that. I can speak firsthand being a farmer. Farmers are truly facing labor shortages. And being shorthanded in getting in their perishable crops. It truly is a tough issue. When I was director of agriculture, we had a labor shortage. You remember that year when the governor allowed prisoners to get out of prison to pick apples? It was a small percentage of the fruit that was left on the tree because we couldn't find enough people, but it was millions of dollars in lost revenue. And that impacts all businesses, all communities. It's not just the farmer's bottom line. So I've worked in Congress to send a strong message that many of us, House Republicans, support immigration reforms for an agricultural labor workforce. We need meaningful legislation to address agriculture's unique labor needs. And I've also urged federal agencies to address what have become common, unacceptable delays in the processing of labor permits and visas for seasonal agricultural workers. It truly has become a big problem. As I said, the federal government does move slowly, and sometimes that can be a real detriment. It's the job of Congress to work together for a legislative solution. We need to modernize our guest worker program so that those who want to come here legally can. They can work, and as many of them have expressed to me, they want to go home to their families. And now they can't do that. We should also offer, in my opinion, a pathway to legal status for people that are here with no criminal record. There's barely a day that goes by when I'm not speaking or advocating for a solution among my Republican and Democratic colleagues in Washington, D.C., and I will continue to work towards this goal. Another issue that I think as a Chamber of Commerce would behoove me to at least mention, even though trade and immigration are big issues facing our country, there's another thing that Americans face, and that's the high cost of federal regulations. Particularly, I think they hit small businesses especially hard, because small businesses don't have a department within the business to be able to handle all of the different regulations that come down from federal, state government levels. There's no one they can pass those responsibilities off to. Well, let me just give you something that probably will, if you didn't realize it, will probably scare you. The pace of federal regulation in the past 8 years has been staggering, truly. Since 2009, there have been more than 20,000 new federal regulations. According to a Heritage Foundation study, $22 billion in regulatory costs were added just last year alone. The total burden of regulations that have been put into place over the last 8 years will cost upwards of $100 billion per year. And that's a lot of different reasons for those costs. Again, to quote Ronald Reagan, and you probably all remember this quote, "No government ever voluntarily reduces itself in size. So government programs once launched never disappear. Actually, a government bureau is the nearest thing to eternal life that we'll ever see on this earth." Yeah, I knew you'd remember that. I think too often top-down federal regulations replace lawmaking authority of Congress, and I've seen that firsthand. So that means, as your elected representative, that I don't have any say in the kind of regulations that are being placed upon you. And in turn, you have no say either, since I am your elected representative. And this is something I really was surprised to learn. Despite the fact that many government programs are temporary, they live on, well past their authorization dates. So I'm working with others to end unauthorized government spending, to end authorized government programs, and to reduce regulations that block economic growth. According to a recent report by a Congressional Budget Office, over $300 billion of unauthorized government programs continue to operate today. I'm a co-sponsor of the Unauthorized Spending Accountability Act, which would take back the power of the purse by phasing out programs that are not reauthorized annually by the people's representative in Congress. A tremendous part of our federal government goes to programs that are not authorized. Isn't that statement just crazy? It was something amazing to me when we learned that. So to address the problem of an ever-growing regulatory state, I co-sponsored the Searching for and Cutting Regulations Unnecessarily Burdensome Act. We have a committee staff that prides themselves in coming up with these catchy, pithy little titles for bills. Have you noticed that? They're all quite clever. But this bill would review the federal regulatory code and make recommendations on which regulations are obsolete or duplicative or unnecessarily burdensome and should be repealed, which in turn would reduce the cost of regulations on the economy. And then to restore accountability in government, I co-sponsored regulations from the Executive in Need of Scrutiny Act to require congressional approval on all major regulations that exceed $100 million in impact, something that, again, is very, very important. So with that, as you can see, there is a tremendous number of issues that face us. I tried to pick a few that would be of interest to this community. It is interesting that some of the things that are of high priority here in our area are some of the things that are being talked about constantly at the federal level. I guess that means we're kind of a microcosm, and we are, of the United States of America. But let me just tell you, this is my second time to be able to come back and visit with you after being elected. And I look forward to this opportunity because I truly do get to interact and meet and see some of the movers and shakers of the Tri-Cities area, which is important so that I can better formulate those things that are important in the decisions that I have to make impact those decisions. So it's a great opportunity for me to be able to be here, to be with you, to share some of the things that are going on, and to learn from you as well. So again, congratulations on 10 years of success. I look forward to a long continued opportunity to work with you, to communicate with you so that we can together bring opportunity to the Tri-Cities area, to Central Washington, and to the United States of America. So thank you very much for having me today. So Lori says there's time for questions. And you've got some microphones about the area. I see Steve's got his hand up already.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Well, I'll just shout it out. There was an article or a blog that came out today from the Washington Policy Center, in fact, the author is in the room, talking about the What's Upstream campaign.
Yeah.
And the misinformation that our federal government is actually paying for. And I thought maybe you could talk a bit about that and what Congress, that kind of activity. So.
Well, thank you, Steve. I appreciate the question. The issue, and maybe you've heard about that, but I'll just review it just a little bit. There was I think it had been going on for like 5 years. The Environmental Protection Agency had awarded some grants to one of the Indian tribes over on the west side of the state to provide for an educational program, which turned out to be, and maybe you saw pictures of billboards that showed dairy cattle standing in streams, and there was, I think, some internet presence and maybe newspaper as well. There was an effort by this particular Indian tribe to convince state lawmakers about some issues regarding agricultural practices, particularly on the west side, which is all well and good. People are able to express their opinions to the legislators. They should be able to do that. But there's just one little catch there. It's illegal to use taxpayer dollars to lobby or try to convince any policy makers, lawmakers, to do anything. I mean, you just can't do that. And so we called the EPA on that. We said, stop. This is something that you can't do. You need to back out of this, and so far they have. The Region 10 is what we are in. Acknowledged that they were engaged in this, and so far have put an end to their practices, which is what they should have done. And so Congress is looking at ways to, that's one of the frustrating things. We're looking at ways to change practices by federal agencies, absolutely, but something's already illegal. So do you pass another law saying this is really illegal? I mean, there's just certainly redundancy, I guess, has value, but just to say we really mean it this time, I think we need to absolutely enforce the laws that we have on the books, and that's where Congress has come down so far. But thank you for the question. That's a great example of the federal bureaucracy truly has grown to the size where no individual, no group of people can get their hands around the whole thing. It truly has grown that big. So certainly we blame the administration, right? Blame the president for all these things that are happening. But no one person, it's just too big that they can't control everything that's going on. So that's why one of the things that I thought was an intriguing idea. This would make for a good poll question, Lori. But a great idea, I thought, and there's a group of people in Congress that think as well, to make every federal agency sunset at a particular time so that it would have to be reauthorized, so that you could ask the questions, do we continue to need, for instance, the Department of Agriculture, just because it starts with A, I'll think of that one first. Do we continue to need that federal agency? Do we need it to be doing the things it's doing? If we were starting government from scratch, would we have a Department of Agriculture? Ask those kinds of questions. If the answer is yes, then absolutely we keep going so that they can perform the functions that are necessary, and that we continue to fund them. But if the answer is no, or if there's changes that need to be made, then absolutely those should be made. And so I think that that's a great idea to try to get our hands around this behemoth that we call the federal government. But thanks for the question, Steve. Any others? Yes, sir. Yeah, you'll have to repeat a little bit so people can hear.
Well, thank you, Congressman, for the talk.
Oh yeah, repeat that part. Yeah.
I really like your focus on the shorelines,
okay.
For the river. That's important for us. But I have a question about what's between the shorelines, which is the water. So the water is so important to our local community and also to the country. It's important for irrigation, flood control, transportation, recreation, and power generation. By the way, I'm a power engineer. But the treaty, which is the Columbia River Treaty between U.S. and Canada, is up to renew in a few years.
Yes.
So I think my question is, can you share with us any thoughts you have regarding how we prepare for the negotiation? What kind of activities we should do before the renew and so on?
The Columbia River Treaty, yes. Absolutely, yes. A very important pact between the United States and Canada that, frankly, I was becoming concerned that this administration was not putting to the top of their list of priorities soon enough. So I, along with other members of the delegation, our senators as well, have actually written several letters to the State Department as well as to the President, urging them to put in place the negotiating capabilities that we need as a country so that we can begin the process that, like you said, is just 2 years' time for the federal government is not very much. And so we really need to get moving on this very important treaty between our two countries. One of the things that has, at least the reason given for not much progress being attained so far is that the Canadian government just recently went through a federal election, and so there was a new prime minister, a new team, he's putting his whole team into place. But I think by now enough time has gone by that that mechanism is there, and that we need to move forward faster. I can say that I have met with the individual at the State Department. His name escapes me right now, so I apologize. But he seems very capable. Has done this kind of thing before, not with the Columbia River, but I think we have a good team in place that will present our side of the negotiations well, as long as we can keep the emphasis moving forward to get it done. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Oh, Mr. Peck.
Good afternoon, Congressman. Thank you for being here. In your remarks, you mentioned federal agencies, regulations that had, in one way or another, expired their intended and original authorized timelines. It strikes me that the Endangered Species Act might be one of those activities. And as a member of the Natural Resources Committee, my question is, are you looking at ESA in terms of its authorization, which I believe has expired, and perhaps changes to it? Both Benton and Franklin counties have become the victims of environmental hammers under ESA, and be interested in your thoughts on that.
I can't say for sure, Brad, if the ESA is one of those unauthorized. It may be programs. That's something we'll have to check into. I think that you're probably right that it is, but absolutely that would come under the scrutiny of that legislation. But otherwise, yeah, you're right. I am on the Natural Resources Committee, as Doc was chairman prior to me coming to Congress. And I got to tell you, that committee it's probably always been this way, but is probably one of those committees that has the most heated exchange of ideas of any of them. It has become a very, as you know, some of these issues as related to our environment, to our wildlife, to water, to land use, have become just a tremendously almost partisan thing, where if you're at one label, you're one side, and automatically another label, you're the other side, which is it's a shame. But I think we're making some progress with the Endangered Species Act in some ways. I frankly I don't see in the immediate future that we are going to be eliminating it, but we're having some successes. Under one thing is the wolf issue, the gray wolf issue, that we're finally have some language in place to delist the gray wolf in the next couple of years, which is something that both state and federal fish and wildlife agencies want to have happen. But I don't know that a committee hearing goes by without some mention of the overreach and the need for ESA reform. And so if we can continue to have a Republican majority in the House, I'm confident that we'll get some of that. The Senate is a little bit more up in the air right now, but just be assured that people recognize the impact that the ESA is having in many aspects of people's lives, in the way we do business, in the way even federal agencies do business. Look, just in our own backyard, the Yakima Training Center and the sage grouse issue is something that could potentially truly impact our military's availability of being prepared and ready. So I don't have any good news necessarily to give you right now, but just know that there are efforts underway to make sure that reform in some form happens. Thank you. Anything else? I feel like I'm getting a hook here. So, well, again, thank you very much for having me today. I appreciate the respite from the hop kiln, but I'm headed back there to see if we can get some. There wasn't any beer on the menu. I was going to mention that, but we'll work on that for next year. But I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and good luck in the next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman, and we do appreciate you taking time out of your farming to come be here today, and hopefully you'll get back there today and do the other thing you're so passionate about. And thank you for the great representation here in our district. I do want to recognize as well, Congressman Newhouse has three of his staff members here. He has Carrie Meadows, Jamie Daniels, and Josh Lozano, who are all here as well. So thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. So yes, they do a great job helping the congressman out here. All right, so our second polling question. Get your phones back out. Check your emails real quick and get ready to text and answer. Okay, so the U.S. Department of Labor's new overtime rule will take effect December 1st and raise the current salary threshold for overtime eligibility from $455 per week to $913 per week. So what information do you need most to understand this new rule? Those are tiny answers there. The A is, what other changes are included in this new rule? How will it impact your company and your employees? C, what implementation of the new rule, what it will look like? And D, what the long-term effects of the rule will be. So A, B, C, or D. We'll wait a couple minutes here for the responses. All right, we're waiting for those to go here. I want to remind everybody, on September 29th, we are doing a BDU. We have a couple of local experts that are going to be talking about this new overtime rule. So it looks like we've got lots of interest in long-term effects and how it's going to impact your company and your employees. So this is a really big issue affecting a lot of companies. So hopefully you'll sign up and register for our September 29th BDU. And we'll keep pulling along here with those. All right, our final question. We've been waiting all year to ask this question and figure that with the presidential election just a couple months away and having a congressman here, we thought there's no better time than to ask this question. So if the presidential election were held today, who would you vote for? A, Hillary Clinton, B, Gary Johnson, C, Jill Stein, D, Donald Trump, or E, none of the above? Wait a couple minutes here. Interesting. You're all so interesting. I just love this polling. Thanks again to Cascade Natural Gas for sponsoring this for us. Continue to chime in on that. We'll make sure we publicize those results. But we really do appreciate you participating in our polling questions. With all of these issues that are addressed today, it's really a great reminder that as the business community, we have a unique role. We're innovators, employers, and job creators, and leaders to help our economy grow and move this country forward. And it's really important for us to stay engaged, contribute to a civil discussion on issues, and advocate for a prosperous future. And the Regional Chamber is proud to advocate for your business each and every day at all levels of government. We're your resource on important policy updates and information that impact your bottom line. So when you have a question or a concern, pick up the phone or stop by our office and let us know about the things that matter most to you and see how the Chamber can help make a difference. At this time, I want to introduce Jillian Marquez, our project coordinator, who has some of our door prizes to give away. So welcome. Gosh, she's got her hands full here, and so we'll give away some door prizes.
No, that's good. Hi, everyone. Today we have 9 door prizes donated by members, and then lastly, we will draw for the 2 Seahawk tickets. So the first door prize is a wine and cheese basket donated by McKay Esposito, and this is going to go to Jay Farrar with Bechtel. The second is a bottle of wine here from Barnard Griffin, and that's going to go to Jan Darrington with Baker Boyer Bank. The third is another bottle of wine from Barnard Griffin, and that is going to go to Jim Cochran with Liberty Christian School. The fourth is a $25 gift certificate from Mezzo Thai, and that is going to Tracy Heidelberg with CH2M Hill.
I'm not sure where that is.
We have another $25 gift certificate from Mezzo Thai, and that's going to Dave Cotton, C2 Customer Connections. And the last 4 here are donated by Atomic Shootout Soccer Tournament. So it's a game day bag and official t-shirt inside the bag. The first one is going to Renee Brooks with MSA, Mission Support Alliance. The second is going to Kelsey Shank with Stoller Newport News Nuclear. The third is going to Tim Artson with Port of Kennewick. And the last one is going to Madeline Clark with Washington Policy Center. Okay. So lastly, we have the 2 Seahawk tickets, and anyone that registered by our RSVP date, which was last Friday, was entered into this drawing, and so your names are in this bucket here, and it's for the game on October 16th against the Atlanta Falcons. So Lori, do you want to?
Sure. Oh, my. Let's see.
And you do have to be present to win, so if they're not here, we'll keep
That's
drawing.
right. The tables are full right now.
Oh, gosh.
Is that 2 or 1?
No, that's 1.
Okay. Oops.
So it looks like they're going to Ann Shattuck with Mission Support Alliance. Thank you, everyone, and if you're interested in donating door prizes next month, please see me after the program.
All right, thank you, Jillian. All right, thanks so much. That's exciting. We should give away Seahawk tickets at the end of every luncheon. And look at this great crowd still. Thank you again to McKay Esposito for sponsoring our luncheon and Congressman Dan Newhouse for being here. The great staff at the Convention Center and Charter Communications for filming and rebroadcasting our program, and to all of you for attending. I've got a couple reminders. We hope you'll join us tomorrow for our Business Development University at the Tri-Cities Business and Visitor Center from 1 to 3. It's a social media topic that will help you expand expand your social media skills and learn how to use platforms such as Twitter, Snapchat, and Google Plus to boost your exposure and grow your business. The Benton Franklin Council of Governments and Ben Franklin Transit are partnering with the Regional Chamber to host their annual transportation fair on Wednesday, September 7th, also at the Tri-Cities Business and Visitor Center from 4:30 to 6:30. It's an excellent opportunity to learn about current and future transportation projects in the region and the plans for the future. So your feedback is really important and appreciated, and we hope to see you there. Also, a special announcement, we just got this yesterday. Senator Sharon Brown, along with Lieutenant Governor Brad Owen and the Washington Department of Commerce, are sponsoring a trade mission to the United Arab Emirates. And a select group of business owners and state legislators will travel to seek new opportunities for Washington companies in the largest market for American business in the Middle East. The trade mission takes place October 8th through the 13th, and to learn more, you can grab a flyer on your way out or contact the Chamber. We gave away a couple tickets, but we still have Seahawk tickets remaining for the game against the Atlanta Falcons on October 16th. It's a great price. You can't buy them online for less than this. So contact the Chamber before they're all sold out. Lastly, our next luncheon is titled Aerospace Works for Washington, Opportunities and Challenges Ahead, and it'll be Wednesday, September 28th here at the Three Rivers Convention Center, featuring Vice President of Boeing, Bill McSherry. So thank you again, everyone, for attending. We hope to see you back here next month, and we hope you have a great afternoon. Thank you.